Have you ever seen a photo or painting so scary that it haunted your dreams? Well, one artist had this happen to him while making his final masterpiece. It drove him insane, and he ended his own life shortly after completing it. Now it's passed to a new owner, but this haunting is far from over. This is the terrifying tale behind one of the scariest paintings ever made. Let's start at the beginning. In 1862, an artist named Richard Dadd painted this picture. It shows a man in a blue coat reaching forward with a wild expression on his face. His eyes are wide open, and he looks absolutely insane. But there's something else disturbing about it. If you look closely, you'll see that the man has no nose and his cheeks are sunken in. It looks like someone scooped out his eyes, and he's been dead for days. And if we zoom in on his mouth, we can see that he's letting out a scream, but there's nothing coming out. It's like he's trapped in a silent film, with the scream stuck in his throat. Dada painted this piece as part of his final work. About 3 years earlier, he'd begun to suffer from schizophrenia and became convinced that the people around him were trying to harm him. He fled to Italy and hid in Rome, where he continued to paint. But as his mental state worsened, his paintings became more and more disturbing. One day in Florence, he killed a man who reminded him of his persecutors, and he was confined to an institution for the criminally insane. Here he would spend the rest of his life, and some believe that the stress of his situation caused his schizophrenia to worsen, and he was driven to paint the disturbing pieces that would become known as Ophelia. There's a lot of debate over whether he used his own blood in the painting, but that's likely just a rumor started by those who didn't want to believe such a sane person could create something so horrifying. The truth is, we don't know exactly why he painted it or what it means. It just looks like something out of a nightmare. There's no signature and no explanation. And while many theories have come and gone, there's only one thing that we know for sure. Richard Dada died by suicide after completing it. He took his own life at the age of 34, just as the sun rose. Perhaps he found beauty in the morning light while he felt most like himself. Or maybe he wanted to join Ophelia in death, becoming one with his greatest creation. Either way, the painting remained in the institution until 1976, when it was donated to a museum. Fast forward a few decades, and the painting came into the possession of a married couple living in England. They didn't realize that it was cursed, but they soon would find out. When they brought Ophelia home, they didn't hang it up right away. Instead, they kept it rolled up in a tube on top of a wardrobe. At first, it seemed like a good idea, but soon they heard strange sounds coming from the wardrobe. Footsteps, whispers, and sometimes it sounded like someone was crying. Miriam tried to ignore it, assuming it was just the wind or mice playing around. But it was getting worse. She could feel the room growing colder, and she'd wake up with fresh cuts on her arms and neck. Each morning, she inspected her skin and found tiny scratches that looked like they'd been done with a fingernail. And each night, she heard the same sound, a man screaming in pain. Then one day, she finally agreed to unroll the painting and hang it on the wall. As soon as it was displayed, the activity in the house increased. They heard footsteps on the stairs, heavy breathing and whispering voices, and this is when the presence became real to them. Every night the couple was awoken by the feeling of icy air being blown on their faces. They turned on the heat during the winter to try and keep warm, but the temperature in that one room never went above 65 degrees. Sometimes in the middle of the night, Miriam would wake up and see dark figures standing at the foot of their bed, and when she turned to tell her husband, he would be fast asleep and a single tear running down his cheek. At first, she thought it was all in her head, but she soon realized that her husband was also seeing things. He often woke up with bruises on his body, and once he opened his eyes while in a dead sleep and stared directly at her. Then one day, Miriam got a call from a psychic who claimed to know all about the painting. She explained that it wasn't just any artwork and that it contained a very troubled soul. She told Miriam and her husband to lock the painting away, to hide it from sight, and to say a prayer before they go to sleep. They did everything she said, but they still heard the whispering voices, the footsteps, and sometimes they even saw the shadowy figures standing in the corner of the room. But even if they locked it away, The haunting followed them. After a while, Mariam noticed that the painting was moving. It only happened when no one was looking, but it would shift slightly and seem to stare at her from its frame. She would run to the wardrobe and throw the cloth back over it, but then she'd come back later and find that the painting had moved again. She would swear that the canvas was breathing, but it was too hard to move and too heavy to fall. Sometimes she would catch herself staring into the blank space where the painting had hung, and she would see the man reaching out towards her. Other times, she could swear that she saw his eyes flash in the darkness. Maybe it was just tricks of the mind, but she knew something was inside the wardrobe, something evil that just wanted to be free. As time went on, the haunting grew worse. The couple could feel a physical presence in the room with them, and the painting seemed to be calling out to them from behind the canvas. It was driving them crazy, but they couldn't bring themselves to get rid of it. So they decided to contact a priest who performed an exorcism, but even that didn't help. The priest claimed that the spirit was too powerful and he couldn't remove it. He told them that they needed to destroy the painting, that it was the only way to stop the haunting. Miriam and her husband hesitated because they knew how valuable the painting was, but they didn't care about that anymore. They were desperate to put an end to the nightmares and the constant fear, so they called an art restorer to help them destroy the canvas. He arrived with the proper tools and began cutting through the frame, but as he did, he noticed that the painting wasn't moving. He stopped his work and stared at the painting in disbelief as the canvas rippled and the man in the painting let out a scream. That was as real as if he were standing right in front of them. Then the lights went out, and the only sound that could be heard was the man's muffled screams. They tried to continue destroying the painting, but it was impossible. Their hands wouldn't stop shaking and the tools fell from their grasp. They ran out of the house, leaving the painting behind, and they never went back. The art restorer finished the job and disposed of the remains, but some say that the painting wasn't truly destroyed and that it's still out there somewhere, waiting to be found and to haunt a new family. So here's the question for you. Would you ever buy an old painting at an antique store, or would you rather stick to modern art? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night and see you next time.